Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. At least here in the central United States. Um, Welcome to the Flying Funny Farm. And today we're going on a little journey. We're going on a little bit of a sentimental journey. We're going to consider what happened to the in the film Casablanca. Everybody was trying to get out of Casablanca, and the only way out was on the airplane, or at least the only real good way out was on the airplane. And what we're going to do is the flight that connected Casablanca to Lisbon. Now, we don't have the pilot's 314 Boeing out yet, but as soon as we get that, we'll use that Boeing to fly from Lisbon to Southampton and from Southampton across the Atlantic to America. I think that might be a fun trip. But today we're going to take the good old Electra from uh, here in Casablanca, GMMT, up to Lisbon. And right now I'm on the North Europe server because, well, I've been searching around to find anything that will show up any kind of company at all. There's some name tags, so at least this is working. If anybody wants to join, we're at GMMT. Not the biggest airport in the world, but hey, at least. Now, the surprising thing is Rick's Cafe Americana is not at the end of the runway like it was in the movie, but we can pretend that it is. And let's go inside and see if we can actually start this puppy up. I'm still not the greatest in the world at this Electra. Let's see. Let's get our battery power on. Turn on our alternator here. Turn our pitot heat on. Now let's see if we can actually start the engine. How about we turn some fuel on? How about that? Fuel might help. Get you out of the way a second here. Get some fuel turned on. Bring that back. Set our mixture to rich. Back it off just a little bit. Let's turn our boost pumps on while we start this beast. And let's give it a whack. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's give it a whirl. And we have a start. How about that? Your doll. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit. Here, now I can hear the hum. Don't want to get too loud because it's a very loud engine. Okay, let's go right. 1, 2, 3, 4. On the primer. And we have a start. How about that? Turn our fuel pump off. Now another couple of things we've got to do, a little housekeeping here. I want to set. I'm going to cruise at about 3,000 feet, so I'm going to be just using a modern conversion of the Electra. No reason to suffer through the agony of VOR flying on something that's not really totally equipped for it. Let's go the other way. Let's go the other way. Right way. 14. 3,000. Here we go. Good enough. Let's go ahead and get our VORs set while we're sitting here thinking about it. Let's see, gotta look and see what remember where the first one is. And our first target VOR is 116.5. It's 55 miles away, but we might not pick it up right away. Silly. Bad memories. No, I don't want that. I appreciate it, but I don't want that. I want this one. 116. 116.5. Activate it. Let's go into menu here. I want nav 1. 116.5. Enter. Alright, I think we've got at least the initial guidance set. Let's see if we can get this puppy turned around here. Get my feet up on the rudder pedals without knocking everything over. I need to change that little sign on our little screen that says East USA server. We're actually on the North Europe server because the East USA server, it's got a lower ping time, but it's not as well. It's not showing folks in multiplayer as much. Okay. Here, we're starting to roll a little bit. Getting turned around here, and we can head for the runway. Big action. Just going to go ahead and take off to the north. Taxi to the south end of the runway. Even if I'm just doing this for for anybody, I'm tickled pink showing off this little bit of flight history. Even movie airplanes go places. Narrow roadway here. have trees and posts and other very large solid objects right at the side of the taxiway. That would be kind of a bummer. Kick that rudder over. Tail wheel just casters about. Okay, we're going to back taxi down runway 1836 here a second to get the right takeoff position. I don't know if they have differential power to the engines yet in this sim. I'm hoping they get it. If they don't have it, I hope they get it soon. It's going to be fun. Well, they've got so many things to work on that they've got enough to keep them busy for years. And as simmers, we're just grateful that they do. And in the meantime, it does work, which is a lot that we can say about it. This journey is going to take a little time this morning. I'm figuring about, about 2.5 hours. So at 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock Central Time, when 0800, if you want to go tune in Fabio, everybody is more than welcome. I would love to be actually watching or flying with Fabio this morning, but I'm doing my own show instead. Mind you, I wish it wouldn't take so long, but this is a longer journey, and this aircraft only moves at about 150 to 160 knots. Afterburner, it does not have. That will light off. There we go. And I'll take one notch flap. One is better. Now let's hit the gas here and see where we at toga power. Try to keep her on the center line here. Rudders are up. Still going. We're off the ground. Gear up. Tap the toe brakes. Flaps up. Gear come up. There you go. It disappoints me having to do a visual reference to check if my gear is up. Trim her up a little bit. Right there. Get this show started. He's having to zoom in since the update. Nice gentle 500 feet per minute climb till we get to 3,000. Here we go. Are we getting our other way? Turn it left. Turn it to your other left. Okay, we'll have to get closer to the VOR and start getting a signal. But we're set in the meantime. Right now we're overflying the just left behind the city of Casablanca. Its little sister city right here is another Mohammedia. And we're going to fly up the coast toward Rabat. Which ought to be an interesting little flight here. Passing through 2500 mark. Little beacon light on, have lights, good to go. That's $3,000. I think she'll stop on the point. The rate of climb coming down. Then we get closer to our target point. The havens at this point. With my luck, some pretty amazing stuff. This part of the African coast is still a largely green area. You have to go inland to find the desert. Not as far inland as you might think, but still within about 15 miles of the coast, I would say you can start to pick up desert terrain. As they probably misquoted in the movie Pat, the countryside around Casablanca is a mixture of Bible and Hollywood. I always thought that was an interesting combination of mental picture. Going to long flight. I'm cruising at 178 knots. I'm going to bring this back a little bit. That looks good. That. Now we get the I gotta load scenery hiccups. Goodness. Somebody couldn't sleep as well as he should have last night. We don't have a button to push for synchronization of the prop pitch and prop RPM, so we've got to guess at it manually. Don't want to go too far. Here we go, right about there. That's about as close as I can get it. Within a couple RPMs per minute. Set my throttles just a bit more. In and check our instruments. I want to get my manifold pressures equalized. Up on 2 until they're just about equal at just about at 20 inches of boost. Now my RPMs are okay at right at 2,000. And my airspeed is showing in miles per hour 180 knots, or 180 miles per hour. Getting a GMME signal from our VOR. Zoom in here. Other way. Okay, we're right on 55 degrees. Good. We just keep this heading. We'll follow this all the way in. Always good when the electronics work. Look how pretty this is. I've got the game sim time set for my local time, 7:52. So that's the time I'm using, is the actual local time. So you can see that we're kind of relatively early in the morning here. Just look how pretty the clouds are. Those reflections off the water are incredible. To think we could actually get this in simulation after what we put up with in FS9, FSX is amazing. There are times that it fools even me. Got to slow down to about 154. Which is about right at where we want to be. It's a couple of knots faster than where we wanted, but we'll take it. And then there's the beautiful Electra, one of Lockheed's better products. This is, of course, more modern version of the Electra with modern avionics in it. Now, if you want to, you can apply the original 1930s model with its old Sperry autopilot, and you can even apply Amelia Earhart's Electra-E model with its larger fuel tank. Will carry you all the way across the world. I like the convenience of the modern here because it's letting me do this flight without too much stress over the instrument. All I got to do is check the instruments and make sure we don't go too far. Tune in. So it's not quite 55, closer to 57. There we go. Hope the winds don't blow us off course. Of course, that's what's beautiful about a VOR approach anyway. Doesn't matter what the winds do to you. Keep your needle centered, you're headed right toward it. Now, a proper DME gauge will tell you just exactly how far it is to the next to the VOR. And unfortunately, I don't think this one came with one. Well, there it is down there. Yeah. See if we can turn it on. I think it looks like it's broken. That would have been nice to have had. Just have to make do without it. Here we are coming up on the city of Rabat in Morocco. Side of our first VOR station. Hopefully we won't have to travel too far before we can pick up the next one. Go ahead and get it signal now. Okay, where we're going next 115. Go ahead and put it in standby right now. 15. Continue. Okay, it's already set there. All we'll have to do is hit transfer with the timing right. Entering the zone of confusion here in a second for this VOR. Just cruise on up the coast here. Thing worth going to is going to take you a little time to get there. Not cruising as fast as people in a CRJ or in the Airbus or the Dreamliner, but it's getting us where we're going. we're headed right to the airport, which is where the VOR actually is located. Exercise my hand a little bit. Course is 24 degrees. Okay. Go ahead. 24. It with the VOR. Reset the signals. Looks like we are getting signals. Nope, we're not getting VOR at this time. Oh, yes, we are. There we go. Yes, it did. 5.9. So we didn't need to change it through this thing after all. Good. Keep on trucking here. Nice steady pace. Such a pretty silver. Red trim always looks so good on this Electra. Let's take a look around us here. Just past Rabat, heading up the coast of Africa. Not getting too high, not having to worry about any oxygen or anything like that. Another huge. Well, good afternoon, Zeus. I know it's still in the, well, it's pretty much in the middle of the afternoon for you guys over there in France. So I'm glad you're tuning in. There's, I know you've got plenty of choices of streamers to look at. So I'm grateful you popped in here. This is a long kind of, actually it's a boring flight. Just going VOR to VOR across Africa here, headed toward Gibraltar. And as soon as I can get close enough to the city on the coast, I'll swing up north into Spain. Then we'll head up the coast of Spain toward Cadiz, naval station. And then on the way on Rota, all the way on up toward Lisbon. So it's quite a journey. But we have the letters of transit, which will let us go freely back and forth through this territory. I'll tell you the truth, Zeus, I really love this Electra. The only reason I like it, I like it actually more than my Goose. The Goose has the advantage of being a flying boat and can land in water, whereas the poor Electra cannot land in water. But it's just the lines and the sheer beauty of the Electra are one of a kind. Except maybe I think the only other aircraft that might be as pretty is the Beechcraft Twin Beach D-18. They both served about the same purpose and had about the same lifespan. I was always partial to the D-18 because I had Milton Chute's copy of it for FSX and FS9. I would literally fly that thing everywhere. And it looked good. The aircraft models always were more superior than the scenery you flew in. Look at the cockpit here. Look at the terrain coming up ahead. Make sure VOR is still pointing in the right direction. And it is. We're doing well on that. Cylinder head temperature is doing okay. Check our other temperatures here. It's a long way to look. Oil pressure is good. Well, weight is good. Ammeter is good. Looks like we're in pretty good shape as far as temperatures go. Still got plenty of fuel. And we're running at about 14 gallons per hour. Not doing too bad. Well, if you can manage the 3-point landing, you're right, Zeus. She is a really good bush plane. I admit mine aren't that good. I'm not that good in Electra as far as bush strips go. I tend to bounce a little bit off my main gear too much. Have a little bit of issue getting that rear tail wheel down. When you got it, it sure does feel good though when you get it right and it pops in. Yeah, I've noticed that. It seems like the mixture hasn't really worked since Sim Update 5 or so. Now, the Sim Update 7 really was the one that really broke the mixture's back. It was working halfway decent in Sim Update 6. A lot of the aircraft could mess with your mixture, get your EGT right, fuel flows. We can check that right quick by going over and looking at our fuel flow and then hitting our mix. Let's see if we can bring that back down a little bit. Now, adjusting the mixture doesn't seem to be affecting our fuel flow very well. 14 gallons per hour seems to be where it wants to run, no matter where the EGT is set. Ain't broke, don't fix it. In this case, it's not doing what it's supposed to do, so it probably needs to be fixed. There we go. Let's check our VOR there. Looks like it's about 23 degrees. So 24 should get us on course. If it doesn't, we can always adjust it a little bit later. Covering quite a bit of ground here really quickly. We're going to see a lot of beaches areas today, because that's what we're doing, is flying up the coast. We're kind of having a housemate, kind of handy, because then we can get an in-flight meal. I've had my breakfast. Don't really need a second breakfast. A hobbit I shouldn't be, although I'm round like one. Cut that back, but it's not so rounded. Nice and steady as she goes. Pretty countryside while we fly. Right here. Nothing but African countryside, as far as we can see. Nice to see we've got a few folks in Europe flying with us, or just flying. I would probably say they're not quite with us, but they're flying. That's always good to see company in the skies. You're not alone. Just a reflection. Now our next airfield that we're going to be closest to is going to be all the way up the coast, and where we're going, this leg is GMTT, but that's still, oh, how far out? We're still 70 miles away from it. about another 20 minutes flight time away from GMTT. I wish it wasn't such a long, boring flight. That's one thing that's always great about this flight simulator is the scenery is always good. Look at that sunrise. Isn't that spectacular? Especially over the wing of the aircraft. That's just amazing. Unless you've put a lot of money into X-Plane or P3D, this is still just about the best looking simulation we've ever had. Take a screenshot of that Zeus, but it's just a little bit more than my fingers can reach. Pick up. Still pretty countryside. Look how dark the beaches are here. Don't know whether it's the sand or whether it's just the way the shadows are hitting. I'd say it's probably a combination of sand and the shadow. Like there's a stretch of beach that's a little bit lighter. What was fun is the Army did tests in the mid to late 30s about using beaches for landing strips, and did several tests about how hard the sand had to be compacted by the weather before it could be useful as a runway. It's just so pretty here. Tell you, the drone of those engines really put you. It's about the most peaceful sound in the world. A couple of big radials just coming along, no hiccups, just doing their job. It'll put you to sleep in a heartbeat. Makes me drowsy. Of course, I'm an insomniac, and I was up way too early this morning and didn't go to sleep till way too late last night anyway. So, that's normal. I feel better sleeping during the morning than I do during the night. Too many years working on the third shift, I guess. This piece of African coast, it looks even more spectacular than it did a couple minutes ago. And the beaches are lightening up a bit. I'm guessing that there's just some higher terrain here on the inland side that's putting the beaches into the shadow. So I'm going for an economical cruise. I'm not going to dive down and take a look. I'm trying to get us there to where we're going as fast as possible. At least in this aircraft. Been a couple minutes. VOR check. That, what that gets us, puts us on a heading of 022. Should compensate for any wind. We'll start to see some coastal mountains up around the Med. Always good to look around you and see where you're going or where you've been. I'm just grateful that I looked at the number of views that my VOD got from the other day where we took our tour of Normandy. That's got more views than just about double the amount of views that any single VOD I've had has gotten. So I cannot express my gratitude enough to the people of this great community for taking an interest in what we're doing and especially on how we're going. I'm not the most vocal or verbal person on the net, nor am I the most amusing, but hopefully it will take us to the places we need to go. Maybe I can help somebody either learn a new fact or maybe I'll learn something. You guys have taught me so much as it is that it's amazing. But that's what I like about our community is everybody's got a little bit of knowledge about something new that they can throw into the pot. That's an amazing thing. Zeus here is a teacher, and that's one of the most special callings a man can get. That's why when I watch Pliggity late at night, I'm always amazed. The man is just a powerhouse. He teaches all day, and then flies flight simulator for a couple of hours around midnight. Zeus has got it right. Then there's Captain Seppi pops in. Well, hello, Captain Seppi. As you can see, we're cruising up the coast of Africa in an Electra. We're flying from Casablanca to Lisbon. Now, once we get the Boeing 314, we'll be able to do this all in one great big month. We can fly from Casablanca to Lisbon, from Lisbon to Southampton, and Southampton to the Faroes, Faroes to Iceland, Iceland to Greenland, and then Greenland to Goose Bay, Canada. And then we'll have accomplished our mission of bringing folks from Europe to the Americas. Technically, like Captain Seppi's trip is taking him backwards around the world, which is a really interesting trip. But he's going in the Big Bird. I check our VOR right quick, and we're still on course. Awesome. plan coming together is always a good idea. I need to get do a little check and see where we are. Okay, according to the map, we are 50 miles out of Tangiers. And as soon as we get there at Tangier, we will cross the mouth of the Gates of Hercules and head on into Spain. We've actually only got about 20 to 30 minutes left in here in Africa. Which shows you we're actually putting some miles behind us. If we start to run low on fuel, we can always land at one of the myriad airports along the way. See if we can get some fuel at any point. Luckily, we've got plenty of fuel left. The thing that's nice about the Electra is it does carry quite a bit of fuel. I'm just tickled that it always just amazes me that our people will tune in to watch us stream. Me in particular, because, well, a clip wing pilot, he's an actual CFI, and it's probably a great learning, teacher. Me, I've never been a real pilot. Couldn't pass a physical if I tried. But I'm a great pretend pilot. Well, maybe not so great. I end up crashing a lot. And my little trip yesterday afternoon with Perth Crew, I stopped on the last five or 10 minutes of the flight and put my plane into a pile of wreckage on the end of the runway because I tried to make a Navy landing out of a smooth and gentle approach, because the approach I was on was really good. Then I just tried to set her down too hard. Can't make it. I'm willing to live with my own consequences. I'm doing that in real life, so I might as well do that in flight sim. Got some mountains coming up. Wonder if this village has a name. Yes, it. Lamra is what they called it. I'm coming up on a little town called La Roche. This is La Roche right up here. A pretty good sized city. Okay. Shift myself in my chair a little bit. Not as simple as it used to be, but try not to make a big production out of it. not, this is not olive country. This is, I would probably bet that they would probably grow a lot of oranges here. As long as there's plenty of water. This place has a river for a source, so I would say that they've got a plentiful supply. I don't blame you, Zeus. Like I said, I'm a simulated pilot myself. Been doing this, well, off and on since the first days of flight sim. I can remember flying in and out of Meigs Field in Chicago on the old wireframe simulations. Those were wild days. We thought when Wing Commander came out that it was revolutionary, the way it portrayed graphics at the time, because it was so far ahead of the wire diagram stuff that it was just amazing to watch. But we always came back to our wire diagram stuff because it was based on real aircraft. And then we got up to like Flight Sim 2000 and 2004, and it just kept growing and growing. I still think my FS9 file is actually larger than my FS 2020, although it's a close run thing. At one time, my FS9 folder was 135 gigabytes of size between scenery, aircraft, and base program. It was just it almost eaten up the whole hard drive. I don't know how you guys do it, finding stuff to talk about for so many hours at a time. That's one reason I try to limit my shows to about an hour to an hour and a half. Big long trips like this are they push my stamina to the max, but I need to push myself anyway. So if you guys are here to help me push, I'm more than willing to take you on the trip. One of the things I have to learn is patience. And, well, let's face it, Allison teaches us patience. Sorry, Allison Johnson is one of my heroes. She is on this on her Amy Johnson trip that she just finished up. She would fly hours and hours at a time just on manual. I can't do that. One, I get bored, and two, I like having an autopilot like this. It's taking off the strain of, I'm using heading and altitude hold. I'm not using anything like fancy like GPS or anything. But all I needed is this, and it's taking a lot of the workload off of me. Zoom in just a touch there so that I can get the. There we go. A little bit more to the. A little bit more to the left there. Kick it over. Let the winds move us around a little bit. See, we're getting a little bit rougher terrain here as we get closer to the Mediterranean. Matter of fact, the range of hills up here are the southern side of the Pillars of Hercules. Everything out this way used to be marked unknown on maps. But that was one reason they would go past this and try to find new ways to go places. If it's unknown, humans will want to go there. They're those peoples that say, you can't tell me what I can't do. I'm going to do it anyway. And there's Viper just popped in. I'm grateful that people take an interest in this. Now, mind you, it's just boring flight, but to me, this is much more interesting than scenery-wise and visually than an airliner. I've been flying a couple of airliners the past couple of days, and well, you get up to 30,000 feet, and it all kind of runs together. But down here, you can actually see the stuff. You can see the little hills and little stuff that runs between them. Get off my ear a little bit so I can actually hear the noise of the airplane making. Oh. The city we're coming up on is called Tangier, and it's right at the mouth of the Pillars of Hercules, or the Straits of Gibraltar, and it's what guards the African side. And she's only 18 miles out. When we get there, we're going to go to a heading of 354 for 31 miles. That'll take us across the entrance to the Straits of Gibraltar. See where the wind is blowing me. Okay. I'm a little bit more left than 20. Try 8. See if we can compensate here. Even if I don't have the actual aircraft that it has, it's still nice that they put the type of aircraft on the gamer tag. We see what they're supposed to be flying. I don't have the Hawk yet, and so every time I see a Hawk, I see basically a big old 320. At least a jet. So I really don't mind. They're getting better with their model. it's really monotonous on this long legs that we have to go. Short legs aren't so bad, but the long trip between different the long range VORs is a bit daunting, especially from a patient's perspective. Hoping that I've forecasted for a total time of about 2.5 hours. So that's what I'm shooting for. I've already been in the air an hour. So we're going to have to go quite a distance in the next hour. Lots of ocean. Now, I'm not on East USA, I'm on the North Europe server because, well, hashtag number 22. Everything was beautiful, normal, stable, right up until Sim Update 5. And I know they were trying to add a whole sector of potential users with the Xbox, but it seemed to have, well, put us PC users just kind of in second place. But, you know, it's still in second place, it's still way better than last year. It's just grateful for what we do, which is functioning, working simulator. Maybe not as perfect as it could be, but it's still better than nothing. Check my map. Not that far away from it now. I can see the rotating beacon at the airport. You can see all the way across the bay area to the place we're going. Now, if I was a real glutton for punishment, I'd divert and head for Jib. That's a very interesting approach at Gibraltar. Luckily, the scenery is up the approach. It gives you a great view of the rock, and there are lots of big hotels, and the airport has got some really great scenery. Okay, we're approaching our VOR. Let's get back in there, and we should be entering the zone of confusion in a couple of minutes. Go ahead and get my next signal put in. On 7.8. We'll try it doing it this way this time then. See if it affects both of them. One, 7.8. Stand by. And it did set him on both. Okay, excellent. Now all we got to do is hit the magic button and it'll switch us. Yep, zone of confusion. Let's go ahead and zoom in here. Switch. There we're getting our signal. Turn left to not that much, about there. Reading on 351. Compensate for some windage. Hopefully we'll hold that VOR setting all the way across the pond, little pond here. It's 31 miles away. We'll head on up there. Plenty of fuel left. Not in any danger there. Holding steady at 3,000 feet and a speed of 150 knots. We're at 154 knots, but because we've turned into the wind a little bit, it has slowed us down just a touch. So Viper, I'm hoping Sky Park works out well for you. You can. That's a really. I know that a couple of fellows are really using that well. The last time I used an add-on program like that was, I think, FS Passengers, way back in FSX. The only thing I really liked was making the passengers scream by doing weird stunts with the airliners. Because mostly, it measured how well they were enjoying the flight, and were you feeding them on time, or entertaining them with movies and stuff. They would let you know about it if you were kind of failing to do your job, especially if it was too bumpy of a ride. More and more people are using Sky Park, so I don't think it's a bad investment. If it enhances your enjoyment for a flight simulator, use it. What's great about this simulator is that it's so many things to so many different people, and it's so expandable. It's doing its scenery thing. We wait and wait and wait. These aircraft didn't stutter and slow down. Okay, let's go ahead and take a peek at our charts and see where we're going next after this. Okay. It'll be to Naval Station at Rhoda. And we need its frequency 108.6. Yeah, 108.6. Put that into our standby frequency. Click, 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 click. 108. All right. Now we're set for our next VOR after this one. Directly on course. Coming up on some chippy traffic. Looks like a couple of freighters. One thing about the chip simulator is there's no really telling what you'll find in here. Those are not freighters, those are warships. I guess the Spanish are out protecting their fishing waters. Better, the Royal Navy is just doing its thing. Well, this wasn't. You got to remember, Goblin, this was FS Passengers back in the day. It was just an add-on. It was a paid add-on at the time. It was a rather fun little program that would add a bit of suspense to your flying time. And this was in the middle of our round-the-world trip, so we weren't exactly enamored of carrying packs along. But there were weekends when we would not be flying our trip, and we'd all get together in like DC-10s or something. And like my favorite was the Air Jamaica livery DC-10. I could load about 200 packs, and as long as I'd usually get about a 95 rating for keeping them happy. I figured I was doing a fairly good job of not bumping them around too much, not making them scream. Now there was a couple of times that we would have a really steep approach into an airfield or bad weather or something through a couple of other programs, and it would really bounce the aircraft around and the passengers would get upset. Now you had a little box that would tell you the actual condition of the passengers in real time as you flew. You didn't have to wait and see 20 minutes later that they had gotten unhappy. And you could monitor their effects from pushback through engine start all the way to getting the jetway at the end of the flight. There were a few airports back then that had jetways. Rome was one of the best ones that I remember flying into that had jetways that you could park the airplane in front of. It would give you a drag racing Christmas tree that you could it would tell you when you were at the right spot to park so that the jetway could match up to your door. They have several different paint marks on the ground where different sized airliners could park. Black Cobra's again with us from Holland. And welcome aboard, Black Cobra. And we're trying not to bore people too much with our little flight today. Trying to escape the Nazi regime in Europe. We're flying the Casablanca route based on the 1942 movie with Humphrey Bogart. If you haven't seen Casablanca, I would highly recommend that you do, because it's one of the better examples of movies that is around. On the surface, it looks kind of shallow, but the more you watch it, the deeper the movie can get, which is a sign of good storytelling. And we're almost feet dry in Spain. Don't let our course get too off. The winds are blowing us around quite a little bit. We'll just compensate for the winds a little bit more. Don't blame them for putting up a lot of turbines around here, using what Mother Nature gave you. This VOR is out in the middle of a field somewhere. It's not up on an airfield. Cooperate here. Now, before the Sim Update 7, we didn't have to get this close to the buttons to adjust them. Having to zoom in a little bit more to adjust the buttons. Sometimes I want to see what I'm adjusting while still being able to see out the window. Okay, check that. Navigator, where are we at? We're right on top of it. Go ahead and get set heading. Peter. 26. 2326. And switch to there we go. Right on course. So we're not even getting the signal yet. Way out. Which is odd. This is a real TACAN and should be generating the signal that's readable for almost 150 miles. Now, I don't know if you might remember this, Zeus. You're a old-time flight simmer. You might remember a little program called FS Navigator. That little program seemed to do everything. It had all of our frequencies. It was the granddaddy of Little Nav Map. Yeah. Well, goodness. At least the Spanish countryside's a little bit more green than the African side. A little bit more hilly and a little bit more hills and dales to look at. And some big roads. I'd say that's more of a highway than just another little road in the country. Yeah, FS Navigator was a it was a little paid program that you plugged into FS9, and it didn't work in FSX, but in 9 it would do everything that I'm doing right now. You could do it from the FS9 or the FS Navigator screen. You could do your autopilot, you could do your VORs, you could do your ILSs, anything you needed to do, you could really set up in FS Nav. Now, Little Nav Map does all that, but doesn't do it for you. You have to do it yourself by hand. I'm grateful because, for a free program, it's just, I'm enjoying Little Nav Map almost as much as I did FS Navigator. And for my little flights around the world, around the countryside, I'm grateful for Little Nav Map for helping me plan them. Because it's much easier to just build it in Little Nav Map than export it to Flight Simulator. Now, see, I'm a cold-hearted little victim of my own plotting because some flight plans are meant for GPS navigation and don't live well with VOR stuff. Now, this is handy because I'm set up. I planned from the beginning to go from VOR to VOR, but what I dislike about this whole process is that you can't, without it erasing the whole flight plan, it doesn't let you join in mid journey. Now, I really wish you could keep the original flight plan and still join halfway through it. We're coming up on, I believe this is the Cadiz Naval Base. Not sure. Yes, it is Cadiz. Port of Cadiz in Spain, and with Rota on the far side. Now, not as big as it used to be, but there used to be a huge naval presence at this place. Now, this is in the 1800s. This is where the French and Spanish fleets were docked and harbored at. The English would sail up and down the about 10 or 15 miles off the coast and try to lure them out. This is near where the Battle of Trafalgar was fought. VOR signal yet? Still not getting a VOR signal. We're well within range. See, the TACAN is not, it's not responding. Okay, our next VOR is going to be 93 miles away. It's going to take us a little while to get there. 4.5. Start steady. 1-1. Silly machine. 1-1. 4. 5. Not too far. Okay, that's got us set up here on nav 1. Squawk 7000, please. Thank you. Squawk our altitude. Don't know why it changes that. Start out on 7,000. I expect to stay there. It changes it automatically for some reason. I have to switch it back. We'll be flying directly over the Cadiz Naval Base here. The Rota Air Naval Base, I should say. Now, if FS9 had just allowed us to use these curved and natural runways, it would have been a pretty spectacular product. Like I said, I invested way too much money in it back in the day. Of course, I was younger and a lot more irresponsible with money, I should say. Never did buy a really big car with it. So I didn't really have a lot of payments and stuff to make. So it all went into flight simulation and such. It was strange because even my wife at the time did not understand my fascination with these flight simulators. I would spend hours and hours doing this stuff. All right, we're at Rota, and I'm going to check my heading with my map, and it's not very too far of a change. It will see it. Okay. 315. Wait. Actually, 314. There you go. And I want to switch over to the active. I don't expect to pick up this VOR for quite a ways. a little bit longer than our usual one. As you can see, it's quite a big airfield here. This was one of the reforger airfields from the 70s and 80s. So this was one of the main ways to get troops into Europe from America. There's looking back at the Rota Naval Base. You can see there's a Marine assault ship and looks like a couple of frigates. And it's had a hiccup again. There, hiccup. I can actually see what I'm doing. All the way to our next little beat of GMME. And then, how many more VORs do we have? I've got one more VOR, and then we'll be on ILS approach at Lisbon. We're doing, I guess, fairly well. This is one of the longer stretches we'll be flying over. I just wish there wasn't this. Now, I wouldn't know what to tell you the truth, even if I had a video spooled up to show anybody. I wouldn't know which one to show you. I can show you some of our, I could probably eventually show you some of our local shows that we've put up online, but as far as what else to show you, I wouldn't have a clue. That's the reason I'm not got a lot of music in the background is not exactly sure what I can and cannot play. That's to avoid all of it, stay out of trouble. So there's sometimes I really, what are they going to do? Just throw it under the bus? If I played some of my favorite music, miss the days of Napster. You would literally copy everything. As big as my Napster file was, my brother's was quite big. Because he liked a lot more rock and roll than I did. I just never was a big rock and roll person. I was more of a movie soundtrack and classical music fellow. Thank you for just popping in, popping out. Look, like I said, it's kind of a long, boring trip. That's going to get exciting when we get to Lisbon. We'll be on that. We'll be on. Technically, it's an ILS, but we're going to be. We don't have the equipment for it in the plane, so we'll be VFR landing. Hopefully, the weather won't change too bad between now and then. Just glad it's chewing up the miles behind us. I get tickled when I think of just how far we've come as it is. I think that when I started this, I was in the city of Casablanca. Got to cross this big open stretch of water. We'll be up on land for a little bit before we hit our GME point. What's nice is we've only dropped down to 75%. Only used a quarter of a tank of gas. So we should have plenty. Let's see. The computer is telling us how far we still have to go in total. And it says, I think it's let's see. $170 total left to go. So we're making up time pretty good here. I'm glad that this aircraft can do these kind of long, steady flights and not give us any real big issues with our engines. And that hiccup thing again. Hopefully to where it's not visible too much. Looking up at my frames counter and the hiccup. And then we're back at full strength. I've got mine locked at 30, which is way more than even movie quality, so my eyes can't tell the difference. The 30 seems to be running fairly well on this system. I don't have the big whopping 64 gigabyte of RAM that some people have. 32 seems to be working fairly well. Now scoot around in the chair a bit. If I can do this without hitting the microphone. I did it anyway. There. That's a little bit more. Yeah, the trials and tribulations that we go through to do this. I'd never really intended on streaming, but well, the people I've met here in the community have made it look so much interesting and fun to do that I went ahead and started setting up, did it myself. It took me quite a while to get set up for it, but if it was worth doing, do it. Do it right. Didn't want to do start a stream and not have either the camera on me or the camera on the game. It took us a while to figure out how to get that all done. Eventually, I went with the NDI solution for the game sim. The game capture card was working, but not as well as the NDI did. Now I'm using a capture card for my video camera. As you can see, I had to put a little mask up around the video camera because I couldn't find a way to get the menu off of the closed circuit screen. When you're recording just a movie, it turns off the captions and such. But here in this closed circuit setup, it broadcasts it puts up the menus and such on the screen. I'm asking it. I just got rid of that. Clouds seem to be building up. As long as it's not ice or rain, we're good. We are a little bit south for the ice, so I guess it'll be great. I've learned to be very respectful of ice in this simulation. It tries to kill you quick. It doesn't even approach it. It will kill you quick. You'll go from a couple of specks on your cockpit glass to I can't see in just no time flat. That's one way to really enforce flying on instruments is to have your ice covered windows. Which is really good if you're on a network and are in controlled airspace. If you're just flying by yourself, or at least you may start out by yourself. You know you don't want to fly into somebody else. I did kind of like the choice the developers made to not include collisions or like the wake turbulence we get in races addition, because, well, this way we don't have to put up with people just trying to cause trouble. You can have this makes it a much more pleasant experience when you can't cause anybody else any difficulties. Map and see where we're at. Okay, we're coming up on this mouth. This river is the city of Huelva, Spain. Then we'll be headed inland for a little bit as we cross into Portugal. Then we'll start our last leg, last homeward stretch. Getting a DME signal yet? What's the point of VOR if you can't get a signal from it? Well, how about that? Somebody doesn't know. Well, there. Hello? Yes, speaking. I'm sorry. Uh, yes, unfortunately, you caught me in the middle of the live broadcast. So I'm going to have to talk to you, ask you to call back a little bit later. And yes, I know I've got an appointment. I may call you back later today to reschedule. I appreciate your call. Bye bye. Sorry for the interruption. I didn't turn the phone off. Oh, goodness. There. That's handier. Let's check our map and see what the range they say. Now, what range do they say this VOR is? They're saying this GME is a 130 nautical mile GME. I'm not getting a signal at all. I'm well inside that 130 miles. Haven't gotten a signal since I've crossed the straits. Just going to take a quick look. Wish you could get out and push. Well, it's getting there. Be patient. Be chewing through the miles as quick as you can. Been doing quite a good job of it. With my doctors calling at these kind of hours, you see why I'm kind of try to limit my flight time to about an hour and a half or two. Now, see, 2 hours like we're running today is a bit much. I've got my on-air sign to let the folks know that come into the apartment that I'm on the air, but and be kind of quiet. But I can't control the phone. They get kind of fussy if you don't answer them. One thing I do is I'm not a polite person. I'm a matter of fact a pretty blunt fellow. When I pick up, if I don't hear an immediate response, I'm usually figuring it's an automated message. So I'll just hang right back up. If you're going to bother to call, be a live person. What it's meant for. It's not an advertising toy. And of course, there's some idiot outside playing with a weed eater. I'm hoping those noises don't come across too much. Ah, the life of a streamer. I don't know how you guys do this. That's right, just park it outside my window. Thank you. It's winter time. You don't need a weed eater. Here, it finally quieted down. Glad I wasn't trying to actually sleep during that. Talk about grouchy. Okay, we're coming back into Spain for a few miles. Now, the photogrammetry up there, or the satellite imagery, at least caught a few boats in the harbor here. People with uh, their bass boats and recreational skiing boats. There's apparently a little marina that's right here in the river here, sheltered mouth of the river. We don't have any ocean access where I live that's close by, but we do have lots of river traffic. A lot of people use that go out fishing on our rivers uh, and impoundments. Used to seeing a lot of boats on trailers running around. One thing I was never interested in buying for myself was a boat. Not that great of a swimmer, so I wasn't anxious to be out on the water anyway. One thing I learned was I'm a really good rock. Put me in water and I'd sink. Even when I'm trying to float, I sink. Still no signal. Okay, well, what about the next? Huh? If I'd have known this, I'd have broadcast earlier in the morning. Did you? Good grief, sounded like an ultralight right outside my window. Another TACAN. 110.0. Okay. What is it? Yeah. I'm set up for my next one. That won't work. And we look across the southern part of Spain into Portugal. But what that guy was burning in his little fuel tank, but it smells funny. It's not quite regular gasoline. Here we go. Look at our engines. And dude, am I really gonna have to go outside and yell at you to go away? I need to invest in another on-air light for the back. They're on a time schedule too, and don't get to pick the times that they would like, that they can do their jobs. But it's still kind of weird that they would choose to do this during the middle of a stream. How many miles to this next thing? Not that far off. It's 32 miles away. These long legs seem longer every day. Every day we fly them. Well, I'm just glad some people have decided to check in and look and see what we're doing today. We'll call it we are technically an airline flight going to Casablanca to Lisbon, carrying some refugees out of Europe today as we explore our relationship to the movie Casablanca and why this route existed. We've been trying to fly VOR to VOR, which worked in Africa, but when we got here to Spain and Lisbon, we haven't been getting our signals. No signal at all. No, it's out there. I know it worked because we did, like I said, it was working all through Africa. Now, one thing about this part of Spain and Portugal is that it does look a little bit drier than as it was when we were closer to the coast or in Africa. Not sure what the actual terrain is like down there, but this is definitely olive country. This is why I was always a grouch during my years working on third shift. Because no matter what I would do, when I tried to sleep during the day, there was always somebody like this being loud outside. Either it was the city with their garbage trucks or construction crews, or a neighbor. Now, most of my neighbors knew I worked on night shift and were trying to, not make so much noise during the day. But the city seemed to not. They weren't in. They're not in the business of caring whether you sleep at night or not. Change course when we get there. We need to change course just about a little bit. Got a ways to go. I don't know if I'd want to live next to this river or not. The green of this river is kind of scary looking. That's a worthy cause, Viper Strike. Are they? What kind of vaccines are you delivering? The C vaccines, or the or something more traditional like rubella or polio, or did they even tell you? You might have gotten the box called generic. That's nice that they actually tell you what kind you're carrying. Depending on what kind, you might put a different uh, priority on how fast you went. Pushing us about a bit. Just a bit of a sway there. Yell backwards at our navigator, and he tells us we're right on course and on time. And we have 17 miles to go to our to the DML uh, VOR, even though we're not getting the signal. I had proper DME equipment expected to show up. Far range. 85. Well, we're about 95 miles out of Lisbon. You can see people starting to show up in our distance view. So we're at least going in the right direction. Okay, I can see an impoundment here off to our right. Dark blue of the impoundment versus the bright green of this river. It's a long way. This is a rugged looking part of the border area. I don't know if I'd want to go down here or be out here without a large sum of money or something to make sure I didn't run out of hotels or anything. I think it'd be a beautiful place to look at, though. Just flying over it is beautiful to look at. But as I discovered when driving across this country, well, not Spain, but America here, what it looks like from the air and what it looks like from the ground are two totally different things. Okay. We're still getting it. I'm going to go over this town first, just for windage. Go across this town, set up on the local VOR. Still got the long trip to Lisbon. town that was on our map. Now it's more of it's a village. I don't know if you'd find a Walmart in this town or not. Of course, they're everywhere here in the States, so it's just a given that if it's above a population of maybe 10,000 folks, you're going to find a Walmart. These guys don't look that populous, but who knows? You never can't tell. You might find a Walmart anyway. Now their roundabout's well taken care of. We have a city park inside the roundabout. Their GMME was right close by here. Showing another, but it's only 5 miles away. Probably up on top of this little hill up here. If I were putting in a DME, I would put it on the tallest hill around. Keep things from blocking the signal. Oh, goodness. Goodness gracious, that's a horrible yawn. Now, whatever that is brushed the trees back for quite a distance around it. Oh, goodness. Go ahead and adjust our course. We don't need to move much. 2, 3, 4. That should be enough. And let's go from standby to active. There we go. And of course, we're not getting one. I don't know if it's something it's probably just me. No, it worked because it got us across Africa. We've got a signal all the way up until we crossed into Europe. So I'm pretty sure the system is working. It's just me that's not. It is as it is. We're still on course and getting in the right direction anyway to get to Lisbon. I really like the way the Electra's cockpit looks like the lead sled in American parlance. That's a nice, pretty view. Such a beautiful aircraft. Get her straightened up and level. There we go. How does that look? Electra doing her thing. Got a long way to go. This is the airplane you want to do it in. Very comfortable. A little bit noisy at times, but still a very comfortable aircraft to fly across country. Nothing out there. Another 130 miles tack in. Our NDB is 50. We're not tuned for that. What is the 322? Okay. We do have that equipment aboard. Let's use it. Two way. There you go. One. Six. Still out of that range too. We're going in the right general direction anyway. I didn't know that's where all the people are. It's a big airfield, important place to go. More people in here. Welcome to Europe, folks. What I want to do is see a lot more. Look over our shoulder here as we get closer to Lisbon. See what you can see. Olive fields on the ground anyway. Lots of olive trees. check my map a little bit again, and always on the map. How far is it? Okay, we're at 70 miles out at 150 knots. We're about 30 minutes out. Which is about the right time, I guess. I figured it would take 2.5 hours. Well, we've been at it, well, almost 2.5 now. So, yeah, winds allow for winds. Yeah, about almost 3 hours. That's about right. So much ground to cover. Just take your time about getting. Makes you want to strap a couple of JADOs to her back and say, "Go get them, kid." Now that's one thing we wasn't sure of, was how far it was going to pick up the microphone, or the mic would pick up my voice. It's been a long time since I was behind a microphone before. It was back in my college days. It was an actual disc jockey. Worked at a radio station for 3 years. Was one of the guys that usually got stuck with. I got stuck. I was junior. I got stuck weekends doing church shows, things like that. Which at the time wasn't bad. It was easy. It was putting money in my pocket, kept me from starving. Paid car insurance. About all I really needed at the time. Watching that clock tick by, and knowing that every minute you see is another 2 miles traveled. Our pressure and direction key. I'm on canned weather, so pressure isn't changing too much. Map. Ever-present map. 60 miles out. Go. Course adjustment. Got new headphones. They squeeze a bit harder than normal. got spring sprung to my head. Get that? I'd like to get one of those little mannequin heads, set my hat up on, put some headphones over the top of it, break it in as an officer's crutch or a radio operator or radio person's crutch, hat crusher on it. Mine is an airport cap, submariner's hat. Just too tight to be wearing it on the street as I would. It is pretty terrain. Although the trees look a bit thirsty. I guess it'd be the best way to describe it. Now I know it is fall and winter time in most places, but these trees do look a bit thirsty. I'm used to the vibrant greens here in the States that our forests get. These are kind of brown, a little bit more brown. Like it wants to be a desert, doesn't know how. Goodness, somebody's flying a 777. Now there's a debacle that shouldn't have happened. To think I used to have quite a bit invested in Captain Sim aircraft back in the day. They were good aircraft. Their 707 was actually one of the best in the business back in the day. Had everything from AWACS to a Pan Am jet. That's what I kind of miss. I loved the 707. For a tube liner, it wasn't the bad fly. Well, get a lot of coverage. Well, you could cover a lot of ground in the 707. They had her up to, I think they had her at altitude with Mach 0.75, and she would really cover some ground. Highest out. Now she was rated up to like 40,000, but I would never take her higher than 31. Yeah, as much as I love my C-17, the flight envelope is just a little bit, that little bit off, especially at altitude. He's fixing stuff as fast as he can. and it makes it's a very enjoyable aircraft on the ground. At lower altitudes, it's a very interesting and fun airplane. But if you take her up to 40K and she gets, or up to 35,000, she gets rather cranky. I can see the Lisbon Harbor from here. Here we go. We're coming into Lisbon here. Need to, let's see, it's 10:07. We should have about 35 miles to go. It says 43. Okay. Still pretty good. Less if I probably kick the throttles up a little bit more. I like them right where they're at. Still nice, economical ground shooting speed. They're predictable. I like that. The airport we want is on the far side of the bay. Where all the main things are. Scared us hot there. Wasn't what the San gave did, but I don't blame them. The old 319 used to be my favorite little airliner back in the day. It had a panel that was easily readable. You could follow fairly quickly about how to get around it, make it do what you wanted it to do. Our online group even had our own little repaint of the skin on it. We had paints for just about everything. We had geeks and repaint. We had 319. We had even somebody that really worked hard got an A380 done. FS9 was where FS9 was one of the times I'd ever had a contracted out for a custom skin. And taking a couple of screenshots and I gave them to my boss for Christmas. Still had it up in his office as of last year. The guy keeps them for a while. I'm not there anymore, but hopefully the effects of my working there will be. I remember breaking in a couple of products there myself and streamlining the systems so that everybody else could use them. Never did get around to formalizing a training program for our department, but worked on it. Never thought that it was that hard to do, but it was. Okay, we're almost there. Just let her coast along here for a couple more minutes. Then we'll start our descent to Lisbon. I'm going to try to do this the way I set it out. The one thing I won't have is I'm going to try to tune in the localizer, but it doesn't have a vertical component, so all I should get is the horizontal leg of the ILS, which will at least tell me if I'm on, in the right. It will tell me if I'm on the right glide slope without being on the glide slope. Just on the right heading of the glide slope. Oh, you can tell this is a pretty big sized harbor. I wonder if it was important for this. Going straight up here, a little bit better. One off my take one ear off. Hear the stem a little bit better. Getting the drone of aircraft engines really good. Scoot back in the chair. There we go. Bump our microphone around a bit. Eventually, you'd think we'd kick it out of our way. Let's see, how much windage do we need? Not much. Direction, I think either. Go. Have to cross this bay to get to Lisbon. See, there's a couple of hills guarding the seaward entrance to the area. How far out we are for real. We're less than 15 minutes from our landing, and we would like to thank you for flying the Kazaki Air this morning. I know it was a little bit longer and a little bit more boring than usual, but it's really still an interesting flight. I can see why these people were so desperate to get out of Europe. They were willing to do just about anything to fly this far. get the big Boeing Clipper, we're going to finish the flight. I think the last time I tried finishing the flight in a 314, it took me another like 5 or 6 hours just to get to England. It should have gone faster. I'm a doofus. Probably didn't have my mixture set correctly or something, generating much power. Now, eventually, hopefully, over the next few years, they're going to keep on working with this machine, with this simulation, and eventually, everybody, all the places around the world look like Los Angeles. That's an area that's got a lot of detail to it. The area around Los Angeles just looks beautiful. Still haven't decided to pick up the VOR, which is not cool. And we're only about 20 miles out. It says 16. So here we go. Another look around here. Looking back over the top of our Lockheed. Such a pretty aircraft. Grab that myself. Beautiful shot. Here we're getting closer. Adjust our glasses just a little bit. One reason I'll never be a real pilot, my vision isn't quite good enough. Just got to be patient to get there. Not very far or very long to go. Just getting there. west for this non-functioning backhand point. Sleep myself. Go manually. Take our altitude down to 1,500 feet at a time. Versus minus 5. Here we go. Unfortunately, this is not the airport we want. When we want to cross the bay over on the other side. Change course. Here we go. Got 2,000 feet. Just ain't what we got here. The airport altitude is at 344 feet, so 1,500 should be plenty on approach. Go. Enter. Menu. Transfer. Aha! We are getting the ILS. Nice. It's for runway what? What? Runway 03. So that'll be hitting the 30. Click. As soon as we're past our where we wanted to go. A bit more. Here coming down. We did go past it. How do you about like that? A little bit more, not power. That was it. Right. Hold that. Closer to the glide slope. Running at 78 knots as we come in closer on our approach, starting our way down. Throttles back a little bit, hold our speed down. Runway. Yep. Chop back. We come in. Right rudder here. Way back. Slide herself in. Over the threshold. There we're down. Welcome to Lisbon. Brakes going here. Next taxiway and going parking over next to the hangar. Try to get out of here and let everybody go about finding other more knowledgeable streamers to watch. But I do want to thank those of you that have bothered us, if you have bothered to stay with us this long, for company on our little journey of North Africa and into Portugal. Across the park. Good. Another Lockheed product. Dude, stay on. Back your head. All right, here we are, folks. Oh. Engines off. Flaps up. And well, folks, I'm about to say goodbye and thank you all for coming today. Oh, good grief. I've got to turn all the way around to get this other arm to bear. And I'd like to thank you all for coming by and having the patience to go through this long flight. Anybody that put up with that, you've got the strength of a saint.